What's up, everybody? Woo! We are back.
Woo! Yeah.
Podcast Elrond, episode 9. I'm here once again with my wonderful co-host, Alec. What's going on? May the 4th be with you.
Thank you. May the 4th be with you as well, Stephen. For all our Star Wars fans out there, hopefully you're having a good... That's Star Trek, Stephen.
I know. I was going to say. But yes. May the 4th be with you. Last time we spoke was on 420. So it's good to be back with you for yet another episode. We are one episode away from double digits of Podcast Elrond. Who would have thought?
That's honestly crazy, dude. I can't believe we're on episode 9 right now. And man, it's pretty cool. Can't wait to hit that episode 10 mark, dude. It's going to be crazy.
Yes, sir. Cheers to you, Alec. But back on track here. It's been just a couple weeks since we last spoke. And, speaking from fundamentals and also just price and everything, things have been kind of quiet. And the prices of things, the market continues to kind of chug sideways. How are you doing over there, Alec? You keeping strong, holding steady?
Yeah, dude, I'm doing okay. I mean, I've always seen the DEX, honestly, as my retirement account. So I'm not tripping about it. Things go up, things go down, and I know this is just temporary, dude. I mean, the market as a whole, everything's going down. Everything's just seeming pretty unstable right now, especially with inflation and current world conditions, How are you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Being on Twitter with people kind of watching you, it's sometimes hard to find something that gets the people going, gets the people excited. And it's pretty crazy how, looking back on November, whenever MyRDEX launched, up until now, just the sway and the rising tides and the ebb and the flow of people feeling good, people feeling not so good. And it just goes to show me just how, volatile markets can be, but what does that say about the humans that are, participating in them, and how we can be just so wishy-washy in how we feel and what we do, right?
Yeah, dude, I've definitely been noticing the same things that you're noticing, but whenever there used to be just people saying, eagle to 10,000, eagle to 1,000, stuff like that, it's like, now you don't see that at all. I mean, you don't really see it anywhere. The whole Twitter sphere is pretty quiet, and I keep seeing things about Bitcoin still hasn't seen its actual crash. It's going to really hit the bottom is what people are saying. I don't know. Time will tell. We'll see. Either way, I'm not tripping, man. I just see it as another opportunity to BTFD. Buy the effing dip, bro.
Hell yeah. Well, it's been, like I said, just sideways and kind of, downward for sure. But yeah, I have totally noticed people online are definitely, screaming about how it's going to capitulate even farther. I've seen people calling for 15,000, and even some people just, I think, more having fun with it, but saying, what would you do if Bitcoin went to $10,000? And I didn't see the tweet, but somebody tweeted about seeing someone who tweeted about someone calling for like a $10 EGLD. And I just think that that's crazy, and I really think that is a little bit far-fetched, just all things considered. So I don't know, whenever, I guess, Alec, asking you, when you see stuff like that, if you see stuff like that, does it phase you? Do you read into it? How do you kind of deal with that kind of that negative energy?
Oh, dude, it doesn't even phase me at all. I mean, if there was a $10 EGLD, maybe then I'll be phased.
To buy more, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I would hate to see that happen, but at the same time, I'm as I said, I'm not too worried about it, dude. I'm not buying into this FUD that's in the market right now, man. I'm staying strong. I'm just doing what, as we say, I'm just out there farming, doing the hard work that a man needs to do to make his money. And so I'm going to continue to do so. APRs are crazy high. Why am I not going to take advantage of this,
Oh, yeah. And I do have the Bitcoin chart pulled up, and we've been just waiting. Everybody's been yelling for capitulation. Everybody's saying, get ready to buy lower, get ready for the bloodbath. And I'm just saying, all right, like, when's it coming? Like, I keep waiting. And this point of this market right now really reminds me of basically a year ago. It was actually last July, when the market had basically just been in this same sideways downward trajectory, just trudging and so painstaking. And at the end of that, everybody was yelling just the same as they are right now, calling for capitulation. And then it, started at that point, it started its run up to all-time highs, $69,000. And I mean, as you said, we'll wait to see what the price tells us, but I don't know. Like, I'm biased, and on Twitter the other day, I posted that I think it's more logical from this point to see a push towards 50,000 rather than the opposite direction. So, I mean, what is there to say? It's all kind of speculation,
I mean, I'm totally agreeing with you, dude. I haven't seen anything that's shown me that this is a downtrend. All I see is a sideways continuation. Like, it just continues to go sideways, and every time it starts to break below 40,000, the $37,000 mark, people are like, it's going down, it's going down. I'm like, guys, let's chill, man. It's just been going sideways for such a long time. Like, no one has any idea what's going to happen. It's really annoying, honestly. I just go up.
Yeah, I don't know. I genuinely don't know why bears, whenever I see somebody, talking kind of crap on Bitcoin in that way, like it almost personally bothers me. Like, and I'm not sure if it bothers me because it's like, oh, I take that as like my personal intelligence because I'm bullish and that person's bearish, or if there's part of it that's like, no, like, why are you like shouting this negative energy for other people to see? Because I mean, if you're a relatively young investor, not age, but just the time you spent in crypto, and you see somebody who maybe at some point gave you some good advice, and now the same person is calling for just massive capitulation. So I think that most of my frustration is more personal, but I think that it's also frustrating if and when people see people talking negatively, and it causes them to literally sell. And just, I don't encourage, buying and selling and in and out. I think that the long-term hold is the way to go.
Yeah, and I was actually doing some reading about Warren Buffett. He had some kind of convention where all his investors come along, and he was talking about Bitcoin and how he doesn't see why it has this kind of valuation, and how they're talking about how they're going to continue. They would never, ever buy Bitcoin, how they call it evil and stuff. And I'm just like, this is some straight ridiculous crap, man. Like, it definitely has some value, and I see no reason for it to continue. I as you said, like with the $10 EGLD, I see no reason for that valuation. There's a lot of a promise behind what's going on here, and if people still haven't woken up to it, then that just means that we're still at the beginning.
Yeah. Totally. Well, just to touch on some other stats here, the overall market cap for all of the ESDT, so all of the Elrond standard digital tokens, is at $6.4 billion. So even though Elrond itself is only about $3 billion, it's, altogether this ecosystem is $6.4 billion. So obviously, you have other projects like ITHEUM and ZOIDPAY and Ride and a slew of others. The tokens that are getting listed on the Meyer Dex, it is adding to over time, and it's pretty exciting to see. But it's also really exciting because, a lot of those ESDTs must first go through Elrond. And, all these tokens are just adding use case, both for what they're building, but also just, the project itself, and giving people opportunity to, be a part of something at such a low cost and such a ease of access through the Maiar app.
I wasn't aware that we were at the 6 billion valuation on the Maiar Dex, including the ESDTs. That's pretty awesome, man. Where are you finding these stats?
I'll post it in the description, but it's ecompass.io. So e-compass.io. There are a few other websites out there that I use, but this one has a really great dashboard on it where it shows the core tokens, ecosystem, community, and then some other experimental tokens as well. And it's really useful to get a sense of, where things are in terms of size within the ecosystem, and also just kind of where people's interest is.
Yeah, dude. Well, speaking of why ESDTs are awesome because they're cheap and stuff, have you heard about the issue going on with Yuga Labs and their ApeCoin, and that they're looking for a new blockchain?
No, I only saw a little bit of what happened. It seemed like nothing new happening to do with gas fees and just ridiculousness. But yeah, what happened over there?
So apparently they had a land sell due to their
Like an NFT mint? Is that basically what it is?
Yeah, so this is called like Other Sides, I believe, and it's one of their new metaverse things that they're going to be developing, and it's going to be like a playable game with your Bored Ape Yacht Club and other NFT characters.
Interesting.
So they had a sale of land. I believe it was 55,000 unique NFTs for sale. The demand was so high that everything bottlenecked and crashed the Ethereum blockchain. The blockchain of Ethereum was crashed due to a land sale.
Really?
And so I was reading up on the Motley Fool about this, and apparently the Yuga Labs, which are the people behind Bored Ape Yacht Club and Other Sides, are looking for a new blockchain for their coin, Ape Token. Because
officially?
According to Motley Fool, and they're looking for something that's able to be scalable to what they need. And I was like, man, if I just hope Benjamin sees this and tries to talk to these people, because literally Elrond is what they need, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, it's at times like these that I do wish that I had more backing of computer science and everything. I guess I just am really interested to see a big project, like, Bored Ape Yacht Club or something similar come through and kind of set the stage, if you will, for what it could look like to move to Elrond. Because, I think all of the, whether it be the Maiar decks, minting NFTs, usage with the Maiar app, everything that I've used within Elrond has been seamless. And, coming from the start where I did in 2017, I'm more than happy with everything that Elrond has. So to have a legit, big name like that come through and fingers are crossed that they'll use Elrond, because I really think that it just takes one, like literally it takes one team, one project that's significant, perhaps, something from Ethereum with that bigger community to come through and just basically just slap all the people who are Ethereum maxis.
Dude, this would be the project to like shake the ground right here.
Dude, like that would literally be a complete 180 for everything, I think.
Ah, man, I would love to see it happen, but there's no signs that it's gonna happen, and we're being hopeful here,
Totally.
But like they're looking for a new blockchain, one that's scalable to what they need, and the only thing that came to my mind was Elrond. So
No, and you're not biased at all either, right?
No, I'm not heavily invested in Elrond, and I'm not hoping for the best ever.
Yeah, you sold out for Dogecoin because Elon likes it, right? That's what I did.
No. Speaking of Elon, bro, what do you think about that purchase of Twitter, man?
It's interesting for a lot of reasons. I think that I'll start with the negatives because overall I think that I approve and I like what happened there altogether. But I think the only kind of question I have is, I think a lot of people on Twitter have been welcome, or the majority of my circle have been open and excited for that acquisition of Elon's. But it does speak to the conversation of centralization versus decentralization. He is one owner and he's taking it private. That's what I understand. So at face value, it's like what it's doing for censorship and free speech, I think is good and good. But, it's one of those things that sometimes you don't actually know how things shake out until those kind of ripples play through, because power is something that most of us don't truly understand its significance. And, no surprise, I don't know what it's like to be Elon, but I don't know. So I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm a little bit on edge, but overall, I definitely approve of it. What about you?
I mean, I've never had any qualms about it. I've been seeing these posts about people saying, I'm gonna leave Twitter because a corrupt billionaire, blah blah blah, and then I'm like, what social media are you going to use that doesn't have a corrupt billionaire hiding behind
Yeah.
it? I mean, just look at Mark Zuckerberg, for example. So, like, I mean, I don't really care. I'm going to continue to use Twitter. I think it's one of the best ways to find some of the information that I'm looking for, and it keeps me up to date on a lot of these things. So, you go, Elon, but at the same time, it's just a rich guy just being absolutely ludicrous. Like, I mean, 44 billion, I think, is what he spent
Yeah,
to buy
man,
this.
that's a. I mean, what I can't remember. I won't get into because it's beside the point. But it's just a small percentage of his whole net worth, right? It's literally a side hustle for him.
That's the mind-blowing part, dude.
Because he's got Tesla, and a lot of people, I think, underestimate Tesla. They think it's just an electric car company, but I used to work for Tesla, in case anyone out there didn't know, and I was a salesperson. So we sold cars and solar powered roofs, or rather roofs that were solar panels, and then their big sell is actually batteries. So they're not just a car company, and this is an industry that's similar to blockchain and everything. It's a baby, it's a small little industry right now, but it's kind of this idea of skating to where the hockey puck is going rather than where the hockey puck is. So, I mean, I think Tesla is definitely Elon's biggest interest, but we'll see. Maybe you never know how people change over time.
Oh, yeah, dude. And I think you're right. The hockey puck is definitely heading that direction. All you have to do is turn on your TV or look at any of the car ads on the internet, and it's all about EV this, EV that. So, yeah, it was only a matter of time. So, it's definitely an interesting purchase, an interesting man doing interesting things with his shitload of money.
Totally. Well, veering it away from Elon, but keeping it on this conversation of maybe politics. So recently, Benjamin tweeted that he's going to be releasing a MEX economic update. Did you see that tweet?
I did see that tweet, and it definitely got me curious. It's what the people have been crying for. I don't know if it's what the people want, but we'll see.
So Benjamin replied to somebody who made a thread, and the Twitter of this person is like MEX Advocate or something. It's kind of funny, but this MEX Advocate account on Twitter made a thread about what's, in their opinion, what's kind of going wrong with the MEX token. And I didn't actually read it all. I kind of dipped my toes into those conversations enough. And at this point, I'm trying to kind of take a step back and just let things shake out the way they're going to shake out. But this person, made a thread, and it caught Benjamin's attention because he replied to that tweet saying, what he said about how, basically he just said, hold tight, we're drafting a new economics upgrade, I think is the terminology he used. And I don't know. I think that I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm not nervous. I think that in the best case scenario, the upgrades that are enacted literally do make me, as somebody who's sold a majority all of my lock MEX, the worst best case scenario is that they do something that really turns the entire conversation around. Because if they can increase the just the fundamentals of whether it be LockMex or MEX, especially in just one update, that's going to bolster the price, is going to bolster the underlying value. And again, the way I have always seen it is Meyer Dex and Elrond are, they're buddy. They're hanging out together. So come on, bring on some updates that make people feel better about the Dex, about the Meyer token, which is MEX. Why? So that more people can be willing and excited about talking about Elrond.
Yeah, and they got to do something to make people hold on to this coin. Like all you see on Twitter is FUD surrounding the MEX token, rightfully so. I mean, it continues to lose value, and yeah, I'm very interested to see what this announcement's going to be. And like you said, is it going to be something that completely changes the narrative and makes MEX a super valuable asset? And in my mind, what kind of things can they do in order to do that? And maybe increase burn rate, maybe the whole supply that they have, just throw it in the flame. you got to do something to get rid of how much is diluting the market every day due to rewards. And please don't change my reward distribution. I really like it. So don't mess with that. But like, what do we do about it diluting the market, you know?
Yeah, so don't let me forget what you just kind of talked about there, because you mentioned the burn rate, and that kind of actually brings up that ecompass.io website. It also has a MEX economics kind of tab as well, and I recently saw this. I'm not sure if it was recently added, but let me tell you some stats about the MEX burn, and then we'll get back to that conversation about how they might improve or what there is to improve. The facts are, so the total MEX supply is at 8 trillion. Yeah, because it was from billions to trillions whenever they increased it by 1,000. 62% of MEX is circulating, and 38% is not yet distributed. So again, that's about, we'll just say 60-40. So 60% of MEX has been distributed, and another 40% has still yet to be. So here is what I tweeted, was that of the total 8 trillion MEX, the total MEX burned is 28 billion, and that is 0.36% of the total MEX supply. So total MEX burned is 28 billion, and this is what really surprised me. So of that 28 billion, that represents 0.36 of the total supply. 21% of that burn has come from transaction fees, and 80% of that burn has come from withdrawal penalties. So 80% of the MEX that has been burned hasn't really come from the, built-in burn mechanism. Only 21% of the burned MEX has kind of naturally been burned by usage. The other 80% is being accounted for from withdrawal penalties, which, do you know what I'm talking about, withdrawal penalties?
Yeah, that's kind of a surprising fact, because that's people just pulling out their money before the appropriate time, correct?
Yes.
Or the timer's done.
Yes. So again, I'm not really sure much what to think about this. I think that in general, it's kind of crazy to look at the number of MEX that there are, and only 0.36% of total MEX supply has been burnt, and of that 0.36% burnt, only 21% is from the transaction fees. So I think that just paints a picture as to how quickly, or rather how slowly, it might take for this adoption to really have a significant impact on the burning mechanism.
Yeah, dude, because 0.36% is nothing.
Yeah.
Not even a full percentage rate.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I assume that many of those transaction fees that were burned, so when on those first 8 weeks, whenever the rewards were so much higher, it was kind of a race against the clock to get the lock MEX situated in the right farm. So I kind of calculated away all these withdrawal fees, because I was like, oh, screw it, like I'm not going to wait 72 hours to waive a 1% fee.
Yeah.
So I know the information is out there, and I look forward to some developers coming along and providing some data for us, because I would love to see a XY chart over time of this MEX burn, and I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of the MEX that's been burned through withdrawal penalties came within those first 8 weeks of bootstrapping. What do you think?
I think that makes a lot of sense, Stephen, because, yeah, I was also guilty of that. I did not care about that 1% fee when I was making, what was it, 1,000 plus APR, like it was truly ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And so 1% meant nothing out of that.
So that's pretty interesting to see, something to keep our eyes on. But let's talk a little bit more about MEX, lock MEX, and a little bit about what could be coming. So before that, I brought up the tweet from Benjamin. I'll read it for you now, and we'll post it in the description. So he said, and this was on May 1st, so just a couple days ago, he said, "Changes are coming. New MEX economics model with key utility upgrades is in the works and will hopefully be presented in the next 1 to 2 weeks. This will open a new and exciting chapter for the Maiar DEX."
How long ago was that, Stephen?
It was on May 1st, so just a couple days ago.
Okay.
What are your first impressions after I read that?
It sounds like hopefully they're going to be releasing some good economic upgrades for MEX, and it sounds like it's something that's supposed to provide more utility, which is something that people have been asking for. I'm not sure what this utility is. Maybe more participation in the DEX. I really don't know, dude. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it short because there's a lot that I could say. I think as an investor, I think one of the big questions I'm asking myself is if MEX is as good as everybody says it is, why do they need to upgrade it? Why does it need to be recalculated, reassessed? So that's my first question. It took me a couple days to kind of come to that realization. It's like, okay, I think a lot of people love MEX and LockMEX, but if it's so great, why can't they just leave it alone? Like they've changed it once by increasing from, billions to trillions, and then they adjusted the LockMEX issuance versus MEX. Do you remember any other significant true changes they implemented? Like truly.
I think those were the true changes right there, Stephen. Especially that switch of the MEX to LockMEX distribution. That was probably the biggest change.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at that point, I was all for it because I was interested in earning those insane APRs anyway. But whenever it came to a point where I opened up my MyR exchange and I looked at how much LockMEX I had, the reason I really started questioning what to do with it was because I had so much of it. And not only did I have so much of it, but it was all still earning at this point. I think it's, between 90 and 110% APR. So, I mean, the big question for me, or not the question so much, but just the dilemma that I had was just like, this is a lot. Like, this is a lot of LockMEX that I have. And, I'm an early investor in crypto, an early investor in Elrond. So I think I had more than the majority of people for sure. But that's what really stood out to me and kind of started this domino effect or ripple effect of what is the point of this coin, because I have a lot of it and I'm curious to know what it's going to do for me.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what it's going to do as well. I mean, all we have right now, is the MEX farm, which can earn you locked MEX rewards, and then you can also participate in meta bonding with your MEX.
That's true. Yeah, totally. I forgot about meta bonding.
Yeah, as far as as far as I'm concerned, I have my EGLD staked, and that's all I have participating in the meta bonding. And those rewards, I'm going to be honest, are pretty abysmal. I have maybe two ZOIDPAY tokens waiting for me to claim, and the rest are, I don't see them as valuable in my eyes that are on meta bonding. We'll see what's going on, man. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. So actually, Alec, remind me, whenever it came to Elrond and the launch of the MyR DEX, were you 100% in the MyR DEX, or did you save any of your Elrond outside of it?
I went ahead and dived head in, bro. Did not save any of my Elrond. I think it was the best decision for me in the long run. I still think it is the best decision now that I have made, because I was earning that insane APR, being able to capitalize on just gaining a buttload of LockMEX and doing whatever strategy it was, Houston, Denver, I don't even know anymore. Mm-hmm. But dude, I'm still happy with the move I made. Going all the way in was definitely the best thing I could have ever done. I may not own any LockMEX outside of my LP pair anymore, because I sell it all nowadays on LockMEX exchange, which maybe will bite me in the butt with these new economic upgrades. But yeah, dude, I went full on in from the beginning.
Yeah, so follow-up question. I know that meta bonding caused you to kind of break down your LP farms and everything like that. So why are you still, and I'm not like challenging you, I'm curious to know, why are you still staking your Elrond? How come you haven't gone back into the DEX and kind of exposed yourself to all of the farming opportunities on the DEX?
I'm only staking a portion of my Elrond. So when I originally unstaked my LP token, I put all my LockMEX inside of the meta bonding pool. And then I was like, you know what, man? I'm going to take all my LockMEX out and just remake my EGLD LockMEX LP token. And so I am participating in that way. I have EGLD LockMEX LP token, so I am farming every single day. I just choose not to own LockMEX anymore. I choose to make it work for me. Locked MEX is still something that I consider valuable because it allows me to reap the rewards of this crazy APR, which, yeah, that's a utility, I guess, that's just so in my face that I don't think about very often. If I didn't have locked MEX, I couldn't participate in these crazy APRs that earn me way more than any staking pool on the Meyer Dex could ever earn me.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I was curious because, you dove headfirst into the DEX, and then now you have a little bit still in the DEX, but now you're back out staking.
Yeah, and what I'm currently doing now is I continue to play this back and forth game of dollar cost averaging on ZOIDPay, selling my locked MEX that I earn, changing it to EGLD, blah, 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 buying ZOIDPay. But now what I've been doing, since EGLD is at such a low, I see it as a great opportunity to buy EGLD every single day. I mean, like, I literally am not using any of my own cash. Yes, I invested cash in the Meyer Dex to begin with, but I'm not using any extra capital from my pockets that I earn every day with my job to buy more EGLD, bro, which is the craziest part. Like, I don't realize how insane that is, man. Like, it's really cool, and I love doing it.
Yeah, it especially is cool for the increase of these tokens that we can accumulate. But, looking at what the market has done these days, what kind of, conversation might you have with yourself about, and I mean, it's out there on the internet. It seems as though a lot of people are kind of looking and waiting for new money to come back into the market. So, I mean, kind of you using your example there, I mean, do you think that there are definitely some long-term negative implications from those who aren't adding more capital into the market and rather are just kind of, maybe they're liquidating it some, or maybe they're not. But yeah, I mean, what do you think could be a solution if the market does really capitulate here? Is there going to be something that really pushes you and kind of changes that mentality for you to start pushing and pouring, max money, really starting to accumulate EGLD again?
Oh, so like using my earned capital from my job again and putting it back into the DEX. Yeah, actually, I would love to be doing it now, but I think it just comes down to the position of where I am in life. I have a new house, and there's lots of things that I'd like to do on this place that require that capital right there. And so I think I just have to remind myself to be thankful for the fact that I'm earning passive income every day that allows me to do that dollar cost averaging without actually hurting myself. So yes, I would love to be buying right now. I would be dollar cost averaging at this very moment. I think EGLD is a crazy low price, dude, for what it offers, and I'd be throwing some money at it right now if I could do so.
Totally. And yeah, I mean, I'll add to that as well. I quit my job at Tesla about a year ago, and over the past year I have solely been living off of crypto investments, specifically Elrond. And it's something that I'm totally, I've been asking myself, and I'm very honest with myself, both in terms of kind of viewing where I got into the market and how I'm using, the liquidity and how I'm using the market itself to fund my own life. I've never been a big spender, and looking at my financial situation, I try to keep expenses low. Nonetheless, I haven't been putting in much of my own money into Elrond either. So that's kind of one of those points where in my analysis, just kind of in my own brain, not stuff that I post on the internet, but yeah, I just have to be honest with myself, like how many other people out there might, whether they be, living off of crypto or just, similar to you, Alec, just not really super motivated to put their own capital into the market. So I think it just asks big, or kind of shines a bigger spotlight on larger market dynamics. And all of these things considered, even though I am long-term bullish, I think that there are, these mechanisms like farming and so forth. They really do create opportunities for people to be happy where they're at, rather than, looking back for me whenever I was dumping maximum money into the market. So, I mean, it's something to consider, just what will help the market, and then, therefore what will push us onward to this hyper growth that we all hope for.
Yeah, and there's something to say about that farming allowing me to be comfortable in these kind of downtrends. I never thought I could just sit as cool as a cucumber and watch something fall all the way from $500 to 120 something, and I'm just
That's a good point. I know you kind of well, and you've not complained once, like not once. You've never even expressed any like, oh, like I'm kind of hitting myself. Like you've literally had a smile on your face this entire run.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm having a great time, man. This is my first like real passive income stream I've ever had in my life. So it's literally life-changing right now. I don't care what the value is at this current moment because I know I've seen Bitcoin since 2012, dude, and I've seen what the F it's done, bro. And so like I'm just like, okay, Alec, now is your chance. Just fucking sit there. And I think I finally learned patience when it comes to the market. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't done options trading again, so God knows if I know patience. But yeah, dude, I'm sitting there with a smile on my face because I know what's to come. At least what I believe is to come. The future is almost crystal clear when it comes to blockchain technology. It's fucking unstoppable.
Yeah, man. For me, I'm like straight on the fence because on one side, I agree, like it's so crystal clear the value that's here and the coming adoption. But then, the other side of the fence is me just being honest. It's like, all right, Stephen, like you're not adding much of your own, dry powder into the market. But I mean, I will say that I think that why people are calling for capitulation is to kind of visualize it. It's like, it's almost as if we expect for, people like you, Alec, who you've literally just been stoked the whole way with a smile on your face, loving every minute. I think people are perhaps waiting or predicting, expecting for a time to come in the market where even people like you lose your smile. And so here's, back to that fence analogy. It's like, yes, like I think that in the past, the crypto markets have definitely had that ability to wipe the smile off of people's faces.
Yeah.
So, that's the one side of the fence. But like, again, like I'm right on the fence because it's like, back to those cliche statements, like this time is different because, I mean, it sounds cliche, but things are cliche and stereotypes form because of the underlying truth. And looking at on-chain metrics, looking at the news, looking at every institutional versus retail investors, objectively speaking, there is more interest in this market. Objectively speaking, there is more capital in this market than there was a year ago. I mean, Obviously, I'm not 100% sure on that. But so, I mean, it's just, this is one of those episodes, maybe it'll go down in history with Bitcoin, making a push at 40,000 back. Let me bring it up really quickly. Because, yeah, I mean, like everybody's yelling for capitulation, for a downturn, for just all those smiles to be wiped off of people's faces. But then you have people like me who literally take it like personally because it's like, no, like this BITCH is about to fly. Like whenever the market is at these lows and so many bears are screaming, they sound and feel so intelligent, but it's like, dude, like don't mess with Bitcoin. Like don't mess,
Yeah, dude. I mean, this thing is a different beast. It's a beast and it's completely different from anything that anyone's ever seen before. So I like you're saying, man, I think it's going to fly too, dude. And I think people are just so caught up in the current fear and uncertainty that they don't know what to do except for be fearful. The fear is real and the fear is here. I saw this really good meme of it's like it's like this kid like freaking out and there's like a stingray up behind him, like just showing the back of its face. It's super creepy looking. And it said something like crypto investors or value investors who've been riding the wave since 2020, and then the thing said fear on the back, and it's like the fear is definitely here, man, because people have been riding in almost unseen wave of value since 2020. I mean, stocks, everything have just been, just sky high.
Okay, then that brings into a conversation about the economy. It brings about the Fed. It brings about the stimulus checks and the idea of, governments providing these stipends and fueling the economy. And, so that helps with a bullish case. But now on the other side, whenever all this fear is coming about, people are back into the conversation about, oh, look at these Fed rates and everything, and using that as a metric to try to predict.
Totally agree, man. I've been seeing a lot of these, the extreme fear and the Bitcoin fear metric.
Yeah, like a fear
gauge.
index or something.
Yeah, and it's definitely on the extreme fear point right now. But like as you said, Bitcoin's like heading back to 40K right now, and like no one knows what the hell it's gonna do. It's just
I'm not betting against Bitcoin. You bet your ass I'm going to bet against this thing.
It's new technology, and the adoption continues to grow with more and more countries legalizing it. I think the latest country was somewhere in Central Africa.
Or not legalizing it, but making it legal tender, right?
Yeah, making it legal tender. Yes, and I think that's let's see. I saw a tweet today that said it took 12 years for the first country to make Bitcoin legal tender, and then it took 9 months for the next country to do it after that. That's what we call, ladies and gentlemen, a cumulative effect. We're going to start seeing this snowball heading down the hill of country after country after country, because it's the trendy thing to do to make Bitcoin a legal tender to protect its status.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it gets at some really big conversations about power and, the traditional markets, because, looking at El Salvador and the trend that they set, and this has been huge in the Elrond community. Everyone out there will love this if you haven't heard of it. But Panama, I'm reading an article title here. It says, Panama is poised to approve the use of Bitcoin and 8 other cryptos without limitation. And Elrond is on that list. And that gave me some chills a little bit, just saying that for everybody sharing that.
They're not even a top 10 coin, and they're on the list of a country about ready to just let it have free reign along with all these other coins. There's something to say about Elrond being on that list, bro.
Totally.
So obviously, if a national government like that is able to recognize why Elrond should be on that list, I feel like we're in the right boat, man.
Yeah, so this is somebody named Gabriel Silva, a Panamanian lawmaker who promoted this bill, says that, the use of crypto, this will help Panama become a hub of innovation and technology in Latin America, will help create jobs and financial inclusion. And then among those listed were Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Litecoin, XDC network, which is the only one I haven't heard of this list, Elrond, Stellar Lumens, IOTA, and Algorand. So I'm not sure, what the litigation process of putting this bill into a law in Panama, but yeah, man, like El Salvador set the stage, and it looks like Panama is ready to be the next ones. I haven't really heard of any others really talking about it, but dude, like this is really all what Satoshi, I believe, envisioned with the invention of Bitcoin, was by having this peer-to-peer ability to exchange value. And then obviously the smart contract is another conversation, but just this idea of putting the power and the freedom back into the people, and looking at places like, America, United States. It's just so, and in a previous episode, I remember you talking, Alec, about how you're in disbelief that the United States seems like they just want to push this technology away from our borders. But look at, these third world countries that are chomping at the bit, are first in line to get going on this. And it just says something about just manipulation, about deceit, and about losing power. Like, dude, the reason that I got into Bitcoin whenever freaking you told me in 2017 was because I felt the disruptive power of this software, which cryptocurrency, blockchain, just software that helps people transfer value. And I think that Panama will be the next. And then after that, I don't see why it wouldn't continue to be a waterfall.
Let me ask you this though, man, and it's something that I've been pondering myself, and that honestly it brings me concern. Do we really think the U.S. government is just going to stand by and allow something to topple their dollar? Like, what kind of things do you think they are willing to do in order to make sure that doesn't happen or mitigate the negative outcomes that could happen with Bitcoin?
That's a very good question. And my immediate response to that is that I expect them to digitize the US dollar, which is just, a next step to just at least confront that this is useful technology. But, and then that opens up a whole can of worms that is above my pay grade in terms of quite literally what the Fed has done with, or not what they have done, of course, what they have done, but what they can do with printing money, and how it is so drastically different than a fixed asset like Bitcoin, a fixed supply asset like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally not in the same realm as the US dollar with how it can be printed the way it can be. So, I mean, I think your question was along the lines of like, governments enforcing. Is that what you were kind of speculating on?
Yeah, because as I mentioned earlier, the Warren Buffett thing, he was talking about how he doesn't think the U.S. government is just going to sit idly by and allow a currency like this to impose itself and gain so much more power than maybe the US dollar would have. And I definitely see his point, but he also said something that deeply disturbed me. And he said that the Chinese Communist government did the right thing by banning Bitcoin. He said sometimes communist governments do smart things, and I'm like, this dude, something else.
Well, being a communist country, the government wants to retain the power. And people, back in the days, fled to the Americas to get away from that oppression. So it's like, they ran away to a different country and they settled in the United States to get freedom. But then they realized, like, all right, we still need a government, we still need decision makers and a process of making laws. So I don't know, man. Like, it's, to me, this is just a high level question of power and of governance. And I'm not sure. I think it might just take witnessing it, day by day and seeing kind of the answer to your question, because you're right, man. Like, what will the government be willing to do in order to, stifle this growth? And dude, I mean, like, obviously there are always blind sides, but the only one I can think of is that they destroy the internet. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, either that or just impose some of the most strict enforcements over the internet. And even at that, again, like, I'm not a computer scientist, so maybe that's not even possible. At that point, they might have to trickle down and target the individual or companies providing internet services. Like, I'm really not sure. My dad is in IT, so maybe I can even ask him what are the possible not solutions, but for the government, what are their solutions to kind of, getting ahead of this growth in its competition with the US dollar?
Yeah, my hope is that we move down a path of adoption rather than resistance. And
Yeah.
I really hope that is the path. My pessimistic side of me just, I don't want to get into it, but yeah, it sees the government can do dark things when they see their power threatened.
Well, that is a really interesting point you bring up. I want to talk to you about this article I found from UTrust, because they talk about what Canada did with the Emergencies Act that they enacted to stop the protests. So bringing it back around to that question you asked about how the government might try to get in front of something like Bitcoin or just, any cryptocurrency. I was actually just earlier today reading up on some updates with UTrust, where I came across a article that they had written. And it was, I followed along with it for a little bit. It started talking about the Canadian government and their response to the Freedom Convoy that blockaded, I believe it was, the Capitol. And the big emphasis is, so I'll just read this from the article. So they talk about kind of what happened with that freedom convoy. But the part that they wanted to stand out was it said the Canadian government froze protesters' bank accounts. So I remember when that happened, and it was, I think we even talked about it a little bit on an episode. But let me read this to you from the article. They enacted what was called the Emergencies Act. It says, when the Emergencies Act was invoked, the Canadian government essentially became all-powerful. They did a number of things, making it illegal for people to gather, arresting 230 people for disobeying, dozens of trucks were taken. And I even read that they went on to bring people into unmarked vans, and they had them give their seed phrase away, and then they would take which is the secret phrase. So that's a little bit of speculation there, but it wouldn't surprise me, because I'll post this in the description below to take a read yourself. But yeah, there was basically a lot of steps that should have been taken when it came to putting in this Emergencies Act, but nothing really happened. They basically skipped over all of the requirements of litigation. So I'll read this. It says, for a period of 30 days, the government got the power to essentially circumvent the entire democratic process of Canada. Supposedly, both Commons and the Senate, both House of the Canadian Parliament, would have had to approve this, but the Senate never did. So because of it was because the entire state was in a state of emergency, they were able to just circumvent all of this. So UTrust basically just goes on to say that what happened here was really what opened their eyes to a huge opportunity for blockchain, which isn't really unknown to any of us.
Yeah.
Which is just it says in the article, moments where the current banking system just can't cope. And it says, fortunately, we don't have to just rely on Bitcoin anymore, with the crypto ecosystem having grown and providing us with a number of currencies to satisfy very different needs and expectations. So aside from all of the, fun, the gamification, DeFi, and NFTs, there's just this whole other realm that you brought up with what governments might be willing to do if they feel threatened. And it's interesting that even UTrust acknowledges this.
Yeah, and I think what we also need to acknowledge is the fact that a lot of these government people have their pockets lined with money from central banks, lobbyists from central banks, and you got to remember that they're fighting for the interest of the lobbyists of these central banks as well, who probably feel threatened by the growing economy of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's an article that talks about what crypto fixes. And again, just to emphasize, bringing it back around to Elrond and specifically just the episode, crypto fixes a lot of things. And, the decentralized exchange being decentralized, of course, means that it's, non-custodial. We each own our own assets. And that's something that I think is why Panama and El Salvador have come around and started pushing this, is because it's almost as if they acknowledge the power of the people, not as a threat, but as an opportunity.
Yes.
And I think that's where perhaps the United States, was wrong from the very beginning. An analogy of just how plants grow, the soil and the roots. If the roots of a plant are not good, I mean, the plant itself can only bear so much fruit. And it's almost as if the United States, what I feel anyway, the United States was planted in not so good soil because of the people who came along and kind of manipulated it and abused their power, I'll say. And I think that some of the fruit is kind of coming out of that. And, crypto is going to be a part of the next chapter of world history for sure.
Yeah, and I'm very excited to see where it goes. I hope it doesn't end in, just negative things.
Flames.
I just
civil unrest and so forth is what you're saying? Like what?
Yeah, just civil unrest in general. I really hope that, naively hope, because our government is ran by 70 and 80-year-olds who are afraid of anything new, that we can go ahead and adopt and understand that this is a opportunity. It's a grand opportunity for any government out there to allow a lot of capital to flow into their borders. I think it's a matter of adapting with change rather than resisting the change, man.
Yeah.
Roll with the punches and make it work for you instead of working against it. And I really hope that's something our government and many governments around the world can do when it comes to cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's a conversation that definitely pushes into some speculation and fear, because some of the most atrocious parts of world history happened because people were just following orders, doing as they were told, doing as they were compelled. You know, we see this between Ukraine and Russia. We've seen it in the past. And in America, the last several unrests we had was with George Floyd. And I witnessed many people confronting, police people, not just policemen, but men and women, demanding them, asking them, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you standing up for this? And they remained silent. And so there are some people who, are willing to change and to stand up for what they believe in, but then there is truly a whole other population, a people group, a people type that are simply here to stay in line, do as they're told. Crypto is different because I think it puts power back into the people and it changes the mindset.
Yeah, man, and it's really cool to see, Elrond building ESDTs that also give power back to the people like ETHEUM, allowing people to hang on to their data, to trade their data as a tradable asset instead of companies like Facebook, Google, any of these companies that collect your data and sell it for profit. You can now take place in that game. And I think that's just another step towards decentralization. And that's what DeFi is all about, dude. So I really hope the best for this DeFi future. I really hope the best for this decentralization future, because I think it's where people need to be, man. It seems like the most freeing thing out there.
Absolutely. That was a excellent segue, by the way, bringing it back around to ETHEUM, because we need to talk about some updates. And I wanted to mention some information I learned about ETHEUM, learning a little bit more after the price discovery was completed. Did you end up participating at all in ETHEUM?
I decided to sell some of my locked MEX for ETHEUM on the locked MEX exchange, but I did not use any of my EGLD to buy any ETHEUM whatsoever.
So no participation in the whole price discovery mechanism?
No, sir. What about yourself?
I think that I mentioned I might do some liquidity. I know the last episode I shared how hesitant. I mean, at one point I was like, approach it very nervous. And then at the other point I was like, I don't know, maybe it's going to explode. But I ended up very lightly pushing into it. I ended up doing only 5 Elrond into the price discovery just to participate, just to kind of add to it.
So with that, you put 5 Elrond in at a base price for the coin, right? And then you watched it grow, or whatever the coin ended at during price discovery. Is that what you purchased it for, or how did that work?
So my understanding is that if you wanted to buy ETHEUM in this process, you deposited Elrond, as I did. But on the other side of that were the ticket winners who owned ETHEUM.
Yeah.
And for them, they deposited ETHEUM. So over time, there was this ratio that was kind of balanced between the two, just like any other liquidity pool. And essentially, the overall ratio that was discovered between how much Elrond was deposited versus ETHEUM came to a average amount of output for both parties. So what that claimed to do, and it's still kind of in the process as prices constantly being discovered, but yeah, so my understanding is that I didn't buy at a time, I didn't buy ETHEUM and receive the price at the time that I deposited. Rather, the price discovery began and ended, and at the time it ended, that ratio was decided, and that output a particular price of ETHEUM, which that then gave me a locked ETHEUM that I think needed to spend maybe 3 or 4 days. It was unlocked on May 1st, so it was interesting, and I have some thoughts, but what about you?
I gotta give it to them. This seemed like an extremely intelligent way to do a launchpad listing.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't allow for any ridiculous, I wouldn't call it crashing, but network bogging.
Totally.
Because if we remember the Holoride listing, it was almost impossible to even buy a token, like unless you had the quickest hands on earth. But yeah, this was extremely intelligent. I think it shows promise that the team was thinking and trying to fix mistakes, which is, they learned, which is probably,
Good job, everybody. And when I say everybody, I mean the Elrond team.
What'd you think of the process at the end, man? Were you satisfied with the result?
I did end up swapping all of the ITHEUM back to Elrond. I was just more curious just to participate from, I wanted to learn the process and kind of have some stake in the play so I could kind of watch it. So even though I did sell it back for Elrond, I don't see how anybody could have been upset by the process. I totally agree, and a lot of many hats off to the team. It's clear that after that ride listing, they really did kind of go back to the drawing boards and try to rediscover what the best way to do this is. So I think I'm kind of curious to see how everything shakes out with ITHEUM price, because of the price discovery mechanism by nature. It almost took away some of the hype. Whenever a coin initially hits a listing like the Holoride, or hits an exchange like Holoride, people hype into it, and obviously there's good and bad. And what is that? I really don't know what it is. It's like any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
Is that the phrase?
Yeah, I believe so. And I'm seeing where you're going with this.
Yeah, so what the team did with the price discovery mechanism, I think, was very fair, but it took away some I think publicity of ITHEUM and as well as the DEX, because there wasn't as much hype. There wasn't this open air for people and their craziness and irrationality to just act and behave as they would, which I think is the whole point of the price discovery process.
Yeah, and I totally agree. It definitely takes away a lot of the excitement, because who's not going to talk about a coin that went up 4,000% in 2 minutes? That's crazy shit. So yeah, that totally makes sense, dude. But I think it was definitely the most fair thing for everyone in the community. But
yeah,
the DEX needs as much publicity as it can get, just like all of crypto out there.
Yeah, man. I think that ITHEUM is a really interesting concept, though. So I think that Holoride is much easier to approach. It's much more approachable. For one, it was easy for me to go on the website and learn what Holoride is doing. But I think that ITHEUM is a project that I'm going to need to see it unfold and see some of these pieces come together to actually understand what it's doing and how it's doing it. Which is it cool if I kind of share a little bit about what I learned about ITHEUM?
Yeah, go ahead, dude.
Cool. So I watched a short interview. It wasn't an interview. Benjamin was giving a short talk. It seemed like an introduction, but I just wanted to hit on the fact that Benjamin says the main use cases for Elrond or blockchain are DeFi, data monetization, and gaming. So that's straight from Elrond's CEO, and obviously the second one being data monetization, ITHEUM definitely hits on. ITHEUM has a really great one-pager that I'll put in the description. It just is where I learned some of this aside from the website. But basically, I identified the problem as kind of what you already talked about with Google and Facebook, using our data, making money off of our data. And it's like data industry is horribly centralized, and huge companies make money selling our data. And in that one pager says in 2021, the market size of data was over $230 billion. That is the market cap of all these companies that do make profit or revenue off of our data. So this is essentially a $230 billion industry where ITHEUM is proposing their solution, which is essentially, they say, empower the world to truly own and trade their data. And I think the reason I struggle to approach that is because my mindset is all Web 2.0. My mindset is all, I go to Google, I go to Facebook, it's like I know that my data is being collected and shared, and I'm okay with that because that's all that we know and that's all that we have. I'm not a data scientist or a computer scientist working for Google that really understands how that data is monetized. And so that's kind of what I mean. It's like, how does this work? Like, where does this fit in? Because we're just so left out of the conversation, for me anyway. I'll let you speak.
Yeah, I think I understand what they're doing because, like you, I read that one pager today, and it just seems like they're trying to give the people back control of their data. But like at the same time, how do you give someone their data in order to have control over it in the first place? You know, because isn't the blockchain transparent? You know, so like anyone can anyone can have my data right now. You can go look up my address, look at every transaction I've ever done. So at the same time, that brings up the question of what data am I making tradable, and how is ETHEUM making that a tradable asset? Because in order for it to be an asset, that means they have to have pieces of my data, right?
Which, it begs the question of how are they collecting data? And I did read this. I'm not, maybe you have some clarity here, but I read that they're aimed 100% at maybe I didn't read 100%, but they mentioned that this is aimed at the metaverse. Like, I'm not sure if I really read that this was aimed at, interacting with Web 2.0 and kind of, giving that power back to the people. It sounds like, all right, that ship has sailed. We're going to the metaverse, and within the metaverse, your data will be yours, and you'll be able to trade it.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me, too. It sounds like they're heavily focused on the metaverse aspect of it all. But another question that comes to my mind is, in order for there to be tradable assets, you have to have people on there providing the data. So we need to have an influx of people coming onto whatever this is in order to provide that data, in order for it to be valuable in the first place. Because the reason that data from Facebook and these big social media companies are so valuable is because you have hundreds of millions of people on there providing billions of different data points.
Yeah,
that's why that's valuable. So
and they can't opt out of it. I mean, I know that there are VPNs and everything like that, but it's like, they can have all of it. But with blockchain, with a company like ETHEUM, people will likely have to elect into it, will have to participate, because obviously if ETHEUM just starts collecting data and possessing it, like, that goes against what they're preaching.
Yeah, totally. So the whole thing's a little confusing to me. I don't know how they're going to go about doing it, but I'm interested to see what they're going to do because it makes sense to me. I don't understand the full backdoor stuff behind it all, but tradable data.
Well, this kind of might help you. It helps me get closer to understanding. But again, on that one pager, it talks about a non-fungible me ID. And I wrote down, it's a data avatar evolving soul-bound NFT backed by personal data. That soul-bound word reminded me of a Black Mirror episode or something. But yeah, so this non-fungible me ID, NFT backed by personal data, evolving, and it says it uses the terminology mint. So it says mint selected personal data sets as NFTs and trade in secondary markets. So it seems as though your personal data is going to exist somewhere, and then you can select it, and then you can mint it, and then you can trade it. Like, I don't know, man. Like I said, I just need to see this, physical. Like, I need to see it physically play out.
Yeah, and that just keeps begging the question of, so that means the data already exists somewhere, and now are they just allowing you to be that person that trades it? Yeah. So is ETHEUM the data collector that is collecting this data, and they're like, we're not going to sell it, you're going to sell it?
Yeah, they're just being this, just like, it says a brokerage, which a brokerage is just somebody who connects buyers and sellers. So being decentralized, yeah, maybe they're just like, hey, we're like just this innocent, uninvolved third party that's trying to stand up for, the individual. Okay. I don't know, dude. I don't know.
I think that makes a lot more sense right there when you look at it. Maybe, maybe they're just a data collection brokerage. They're taking a hands-off approach and allowing the people to be in charge of their data and being able to trade it, which sounds cool to me, man.
Which is another Black Mirror episode. It's like, all right, so if the humans don't control it, then the computers do, which on paper in complete security is great. But what if, something plays out where computers start to take over, and it's like, all right, now all the computers, it's like we gave up, or rather we changed the world with Web3, and we literally, instead of being used for our data, we just gave it to the computers to take advantage of us. I don't know, that's speculation.
I hope
Or
that future doesn't
just-
occur, but I'm excited to see what happens.
Maybe a little bit of fictional role playing there.
Well, I mean, Skynet eagled capital. I
True.
mean, it's all adding up, Steven.
It's all adding up. But yeah, speaking of some other ESDTs, let's touch on some ZOIDPAY. So the shopping pool sale is done with. They sold all 100.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, ZOIDPAY sold all 100 of their for sale shopping pools within 4 days. So 100 times 100,000 minimum ZPay needed for those shopping pools definitely took some out of circulation. And then now they also recently came out with the staking. So if you are a smaller ZPay holder, you can elect to hold your ZPay locked in 3, 6, 9, or 12 increments, and each of those different increments gives you a different tier of perks and utilities.
Steven, if I remember correctly, you actually own a shopping pool that people can participate in. Is that correct?
Yes, and I did not tell Alec to say this, but yeah,
Not at all.
I think that it was awesome for ZOIDPAY to have reached out to us, and the least I could do is try to participate in ZOIDPAY. So yeah, I elected to get myself a shopping pool. If you're a Zoidster out there, go ahead and stake to high five. And I was reading about this. The shopping pool owners can kind of add their own incentives to get people. But this is I came across this while rewatching our interview with Edward, and he talks about how ZOIDPAY is going to have an index associated with each Elrond wallet, and that index is going to be calculated by how that wallet engages with the ZOIDPAY ecosystem.
Yeah.
So I mean, and on top of that, and I think in Q2 or maybe it's Q3, ZOIDPAY is going to be pushing into their gamification layer, where they're going to make available the wand. They're going to do a wand token sale, which again, that wand is the DGen token. And they say that you'll be able to farm ZPay, farm NFTs, farm benefits, whether it be staking or cash back. Wand will have obscene APRs of 700 to 2,300%.
Nice.
And then something else, the last thing was that ILF that ZOIDPAY, or that Edward mentioned, that was that patent, the instant liquidity farming. So I think, and the reason that I'm participating in buying this dip, ZOIDPAY is over 50% down off of its all-time high of like $1.70 over that. So I'm trying to manage risk. It's nerve-wracking for me because I'm literally trying to catch a falling knife, which is not something I recommend trying to time or trade like this. But I see, with that interview we had with Edward, where ZPay is going, how they're going to build, how they're going to get there. And I don't know, I feel like I don't like to say the word cult, but there's this kind of meme ability that I think ZOIDPAY is happy to entertain, calling Wand a DGen token. They have this other thing called Fuck Fees Week. Like, I don't know, I feel like ZPay is very approachable, and I think that's really going to appeal to the retail investors.
I totally agree with you, Steven. I see a lot of value in ZOIDPAY, and I love everything that they're doing, man. And that's not just because we interviewed Edward. But throughout our interview, he was showing us all the value that he was adding to ZOIDPAY. And just judging by their Twitter, dude, are they sleeping there at the ZOIDPAY headquarters? Because all I see is nonstop progress.
Literally in the interview, did Edward not say that they won't be sleeping? I don't remember if he said we won't be getting sleep or we won't be taking weekends.
No more weekends, he said.
I believed him. Like,
Yeah.
I really wanted to challenge him during that interview to kind of push him to see what's ZOIDPAY up to, and it seems as though they are focused on pushing the limits in 2022.
Yeah. Hey, Edward, I'm just gonna throw this out there, bro. If you want to fly us down to Romania, we'd love to check out the headquarters and talk to you guys some more.
Hell yeah, in-person interview, which we'll get more into the possibility of that later on. because I wanted to also mention, or rather reply to what you said about the Twitter is, I like ZOIDPAY, as I mentioned, because they're building on Elrond. But something that I feel like ZOIDPAY is doing that Elrond could improve on is 100% their communication with their audience. You refer to anybody on the team at Elrond themselves, and they're not going to reply to you. They're not going to respond. And I'm not saying this to dog on them. It's just my experience. And there have been several times that I at ZOIDPAY, and literally the official account comes in and supplements what I'm saying, either with links, with articles, with answers to questions. And I think that there is something significant when the community feels supported in that way. And we talked about it in the last episode about how those town halls at Elrond, I like them, you like them, everybody else likes them. They make us feel connected. They make us feel involved. And we'll see. I know that Elrond is focused on building, and they're at the heart of all of it. But I think that there's a huge opportunity for Elrond to push a little bit more into how open and welcoming they are as a community, as developers. I mean, do they have somebody like ZOIDPAY does sitting at a computer and engaging with the community? Because I've never seen it.
Yeah, dude, I totally get where you're coming from, because the ZOIDPAY, anyone can at ZOIDPAY, and they're either gonna like your tweet, or they're just gonna say something back if you said something interesting, and that's something to say about the community that they're building out there. Mm-hmm. And just to talk about the Elrond community, I know it's a strong community because I've participated with it myself, and I think you're right. If the Elrond team had a dedicated person that's trying to build those community ties, because the community exists. It's out there, dude. All you got to do is stoke it and plug yourself into it. And I think there is a giant opportunity being missed by the Elrond team, because if they were to involve themselves more with the community and do a lot more town halls, I think a lot of this FUD can be squashed as well, man. It was really nice hearing from Benjamin and seeing him sit right there in front of us and talk to us about the upgrades and stuff. But hopefully with this new upgrade that's coming about, maybe another town hall will come about with it. I doubt it, but it'd be really nice to see you, Benjamin.
It would be. And it would be obviously useful for everybody to hear about what's been going on behind the scenes. Obviously Alec and I seem pretty dead set on the long-term play, but just as, trying to kind of level with more retail new investors out there, it's like people want to feel involved. People want to feel heard. And, just again, wrapping it back around to ZOIDPAY, I appreciate Edward reaching out to us personally, or I guess ZOIDPAY reached out to us and made that happen. And it seems like they're looking to build all through year 22 nonstop. They have this community that's being built, and it feels like a healthy community. Unlike Ride, their token listing did not have any negativity around it. Mm-hmm. And then out of the blue, with this shopping pool sale, and then meta staking on MyRDEX, and then staking on ZOIDPAY through shopping pools, now it's like, what negative things have happened with ZOIDPAY? Like, obviously I hope that it works out from a financial perspective for me, considering my investment, but ZOIDPAY seems like they're ready to grow. And, I've said that already, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, dude, it definitely seems like they're poised to grow, and they're continuing to do whatever it takes to grow. So I'm really excited for Edward. I'm really excited for the ZOIDPAY team, and it's really exciting to see that they are an ESDT on the Elrond blockchain.
Yeah, man. Last thing I'll mention, just in terms of broad Elrond updates, I'm not sure if you've taken note of any of the updates to the MyR smartphone application, have you?
Yeah, dude. The new profile pictures and like the banner stuff, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was kind of cool to me, because obviously the profile picture was kind of a step closer to this online profile, and then with the header too, it's interesting how the MyR application is a wallet, but now it's kind of evolving, and I think that actually is going to get and play a bigger role once Elrond really starts to open up on that gamification layer, which again, that short speech I saw of Benjamin's, he talks about how the three main use cases for blockchain and or Elrond: DeFi, data monetization, and gaming. And I'm really interested to see Maiar continue to be bolstered just from a wallet perspective, but then also too, what are clearly they're interested in adding personality and community, this sense of engagement to this wallet application. So I don't know, do you have any thoughts?
I think they're just trying to bolster that sense of approachability that they're going for with the Maiar app, because I remember Benjamin had that interview with the dude in the robe who sits in a big chair. Remember, it was a kind of a yeah. You know who I'm talking about.
Was it London Real? It was
there.
You go.
Real. London
yes.
Real. Yeah,
he talks a lot about gamification there.
Yeah, and he also talked about the importance of the user experience within the app and being able to make that something that anyone can interact with. And I think they're trying to make their way there, and it's really cool to see them all put all these new updates in. I know they seem small, but I think it just makes it more attractive to the everyday person.
Yeah. So in closing, hopefully by the next episode, which will be episode 10, episode 10, I think hopefully we'll have some more clarity on Benjamin mentioning the MEX economics upgrade.
Yep.
So kind of some open-ended things we'll try to hopefully have to add to the next episode. The MEX conversation, the NFT marketplace seems as though it could be out any moment. That was a Q1 checklist that we're still kind of waiting on. And then of course that Elrond Ethereum bridge, everybody's been waiting for that. And do you have anything else to add about the bridge? We didn't really talk about it at all. There's not much to say,
Nah, dude, just waiting on its completion. I'm excited for when it's completed and for what it's going to bring.
Yeah. So keep a lookout on the next episode 10. Hopefully we'll have some more exciting information about MEX and the NFT marketplace, the bridge, all that good stuff. Also too, Alec, I haven't mentioned this to you, so I'm saying it live, but we've had several people in our DMs asking us for interviews, specifically NFT projects. So, I mean, there have been quite a few, and I'm not sure how exactly to go about it because I want to provide some spotlight out there. So I've been thinking about maybe putting it up to a community vote, getting some engagement on the Podcast Elrond Twitter, basically just having all of these different tweets and putting the user profile for all of the NFTs that have reached out to us, and really just leaving it up to the community. Whichever tweet gets the most likes or retweets or something like that, we'll maybe put out an NFT special where we give a 15-minute spotlight to maybe the top 3, top 4, maybe top 5 NFTs that got the most likes or retweets. What do you think about that?
Dude, I love the sound of that, man. I think that'd be awesome, dude. As the NFT marketplace grows, I think we need something like this.
Yeah, and like I said, there have been a lot, and NFTs are something with this podcast that I'm scared to kind of push into, because the idea of rug pulls and everything like that, the very last thing I'd want to do is to have and I mean, I think the reason people want to do these interviews on Podcast Elrond is because this brings up the conversation of being doxxed. And, especially if we're able to provide some doxxed interviews with these creators, I think that will help hedge against any room for any rug pulls or anything. So I love NFTs. I'm excited to see how they expand into the gamification layer of the blockchain. So yeah, I guess with that response from Alec, it sounds like look out on the Twitter page, and we'll try to get that little NFT campaign going to see if we can give something out to you all.
Hell yeah, dude. Sounds good, man. Looking forward to it.
Totally. Other things to look out for. Sorry, this is a long outro here. But another project, I think they have an NFT, but AeroVec Aviation has reached out to Podcast Elrond, and we are trying to coordinate calendars and figure out when we can get an interview for the AeroVec Aviation. So be on the lookout for that. And I mean, what else is there to say? Alec, is there any other responses?
I think we're good to go, man.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Alec, as always, it's been a great pleasure to sit here and talk about Elrond and blockchain with you. So thank you so much for your time, Alec. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And I guess we'll catch you on Podcast Elrond episode 10.
Hell yeah. Same to you, Stephen. Catch you on episode 10, buddy.
Peace out, everybody.